Solicitors report.
Thank you. The first item is regarding the continued transition under the Bucks or the TCC. This is the Act 32 transition, moving us from a local tax collector, Berkheimer Associates, to the TCC selected tax collector, Keystone. Recently, the Bucks TCC, and I'll invite Gerard or Bob or delegates to the TCC to chime in at any time, but the TCC had issued a new checklist of items to be accomplished by set dates, and by October 15th, which is the end of this week, we need to pass a resolution adopting the agreement that has been proposed or negotiated between the TCC and Keystone. In addition, we need to give notice to the prior tax collector, that would be Berkheimer Associates, of the transition and requesting release of tax data. And then we have to give notice to both the Bucks TCC Treasurer, Eileen Bradley, and Mitch Hoffman at the DCED, notice that the borough is electing to begin the transition as of January 1, 2011, as opposed to January 1, 2012. I have prepared, based on a model proposed by the TCC, a letter to be signed by Council President giving notice to Berkheimer for the tax transition. And I've prepared a resolution based on the TCC model. The substantial difference between what was proposed by TCC and what I've prepared for Council is that in addition to the EIT tax, which is all that the TCC is involved, it also involves or addresses a transition from Berkheimer to Keystone for the LST tax. Council previously voted to move both tax collections over to a single tax collector, and we have previously given notice to Berkheimer of our termination of the agreements with Berkheimer. So what I'd like to do is read the resolution, and I'd ask for a motion to adopt the resolution 10-12-10B regarding appointment of Keystone as earned income tax and local services tax collector pursuant to the Act 32 transition. But I will read the resolution first. A resolution of the Borough of Newtown, County of Bucks, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, appointing Keystone Tax Collection Group as EIT and LST tax collector. Whereas the Borough of Newtown levies a tax on earned income and net profits of residents of the borough under the Local Tax Enabling Act, 53 PS 6910 et sec. Whereas on or about November 9, 1993, the borough contracted with Berkheimer Associates to collect its EIT. Whereas Act 32 of 2008 amended the Local Tax Enabling Act to provide for countywide collection of EIT levied by school districts and municipalities. Whereas Act 32 of 2008 created the Bucks County Tax Collection District and the Bucks County Tax Collection Committee to govern the TCD and to retain a tax collector to collect EIT levied by municipalities and school districts within the TCD beginning January 1, 2012. Whereas the TCC has appointed Keystone Tax Collection Group to serve as the TCD tax collector beginning January 1, 2012, whereas the tax collection agreement between the TCC and Keystone does permit municipalities and school districts in the TCD, to appoint Keystone to collect EIT effective January 1, 2011. Whereas the borough has determined that it will be beneficial to the borough to begin using Keystone to collect EIT beginning January 1, 2011. Whereas the borough previously enacted the Newtown Borough Local Services Tax Ordinance under the Local Tax Enabling Act, allowing for the collection of a local services tax. Whereas on or about November 14, 1995, the borough contracted with Berkheimer Associates to collect its LST. And whereas the borough has determined that in connection with the transition of its EIT tax collection to Keystone, it would be beneficial to the borough to also have Keystone collect its LST. Be it resolved that the Council of the Borough of Newtown, County of Bucks, and Commonwealth of Pennsylvania does hereby resolve as follows. Section 1. Effective January 1, 2011, in accordance with the terms and conditions of the tax agreement between the TCC and Keystone, Keystone shall serve as the borough's EIT tax collector for the 2011 tax year. Effective January 1, 2011, in accordance with the terms and conditions of a master agreement negotiated by the TCC or another agreement negotiated by the borough, subject to subsequent approval by Borough Council, Keystone shall serve as the borough's LST tax collector for the 2011 tax year. Section 3. Effective December 31, 2010, Berkheimer Associates will no longer serve as the borough's EIT or LST tax collector. However, Berkheimer Associates will be responsible for the continued collection of EIT and LST levied in 2010, including receiving fourth quarter employer and individual remittances, individual final returns, employer year-end reconciliations and delinquents arising from the completion of tax year 2010 until June 30th, 2011, at which time such delinquent taxes and reports shall become the responsibility of the TCC-appointed tax collector Keystone. Section 4, effective December 31, 2010, the contracts between the Borough and Berkheimer Associates will terminate as to future tax years. However, the terms and conditions of the contracts will continue to govern Berkheimer Associates' collection of taxes levied in 2010 and the transition of tax records. Section 5, the President of Borough Council is hereby authorized to take all appropriate actions as are necessary to effectuate the transition contemplated by this resolution, including the provision of notice to Berkheimer Associates, Keystone, the TCC, and Commonwealth agencies and departments. Section 5, all resolutions or parts of resolutions insofar as the same shall be inconsistent herewith, shall be in the same hereby expressly are repealed. So good. So moved.
Second.
If I can just explain one point on that now that I've got the second. My understanding is that the TCC is negotiating what they're referring to as a master agreement between, or the TCC, between Keystone and municipalities that are choosing to have their LST tax collected. While it's not part of the transition, again, I just have an understanding that they are negotiating something, and I'm going to be talking to Gerard after this to try to see where they are on that. But if they don't come to some agreement, then we will come to an agreement with Keystone.
Okay, it's been moved. Do we have a second? You just seconded it? It's moved and seconded. All right, any other discussion? And so that was, these came late in the day. You revised it, and that didn't even look like the revision I had. So did that revision get to Marcia?
I'll send it to you, Marcia. The one substantive change I made, because I sent out two versions, one just addressing typos, but I did add a parenthetical in Section 2, subject to subsequent approval by Borough Council. I want to make it clear that the authority you're giving the President today is not the authority to eventually sign a contract with Keystone. We'll have to come back to Council, and you'll have to approve that. But as far as all notices and letters, that you're giving authority for.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Any discussion from the audience? Okay. If not, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
And finally, on the matter of the Listala conditional use regarding the noise complaints, the hearing at the Newtown Township has been moved back from tomorrow, the 13th, for 2 weeks to their October 27th supervisors meeting. The reason I was given was that there was a delay in the sound tests being conducted, and that was the reason that the original hearing back in August was put off. But it is to be on the agenda on October 27th. My office will be appearing and will be representing the borough in opposition to the application. The issue has come up regarding the lack of compliance by Listala with the Liquor Control Board regulations, and it is our understanding that the Liquor Control Board has issued a letter to Listala and is determining whether or not a citation will be issued. I believe we discussed at the work session the possibility of Council President sending a letter to the Liquor Control Board expressing the Borough Council's concern about the lack of compliance with the LCB regulations. So on that issue, what we were looking for is a motion to authorize the President of Council to send a letter to the Pennsylvania Liquor Control Board regarding the Listala restaurant.
If I may, I would suggest the wording be changed, but only slightly, to reflect our request that they undertake enforcement action, because our understanding is very simply that they have been and continue to be in violation of their retail license for that location.
That would make sense. Yeah, I would agree.
Okay, is there a second?
Okay.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Okay, if not, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
And I will provide you with the contact information for the officer that's been working on this matter.
Okay, thank you. And if you have any recommended wording, that would be fine too.
Yeah, we can
work on
finalize
that.
it. Yeah.
Okay.